He's the one for me. And there's no place I'd rather be.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, this is quite the... You didn't expect that, did you?
No, it's just because sorry, I have to explain it a little bit because we're recording under slightly different circumstances this week, and because of that, Connor had to press play on the recording and then come sit down. So we were just both staring at the screen, waiting for the 15 seconds to pass, and then we were just sitting there, just like, yep.
I mean, open with that, yeah.
So he's the one for you, Connor. You found the one that's in your heart for you.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And his name is the Ridge Racer. Untitled, mysterious, anonymous, the man with no name.
The man with no face, really.
No, no character model at all.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about the Ridge Racer, is that he is all things to all people. He could be wherever you want him to be.
The Ridge Racer could even be you. We need to talk about what we're playing here. Ridge Racer, Type 4.
Wait, we have to establish these games first?
I think.
Oh, God.
I was trying that, but then I realised I didn't have anything to go by, despite insisting I should start the episode.
It's perfect. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
We are experts at this. We are dab hands.
Yeah, we have great energy on the podcast.
Listen, we both live very difficult lives. Yesterday we had to hang out for a bit. And now we're very tired.
Yeah, it's dreadful.
It's awful. All our horrible friends were there who also listen to this podcast.
We love you, friends.
Apart from that one friend.
You know who you are.
Exactly.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, Ridge Racer Type 4. This is a very special game to me, and this is seeded number 6 on the podcast. This is the 6th game we played.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Does that include Fire Emblem Fates?
No, it doesn't. We have 3 precursor games to the list. And
none of them are Jack and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy, which is just depressing.
No, none of them have been really precursor related in any way.
No.
But this is the beginning of us playing games that are sort of unanimously good. You know?
Hey, hold on.
No. Like, we already had our discussion on Haunting Ground, how it falls apart about 50 to 80% of the way through.
No, it's weird. I don't remember that.
You don't?
Yeah, I've just got a soft, warm, fuzzy feeling in my head. I just remember a dog running around.
I think they call that Demento.
That girl's
in Japan, anyway.
In where?
In Japan.
Nihon.
Yeah, well, welcome. Speaking of Japan games,
we're talking about another Japanese game today.
Mm-hmm.
Ridge Racer Type 4.
A very special game. Very special to the list because it's the first racing game.
Yeah, it's the first racing game. It's the first good game.
Yeah.
It's by the point in which we'd been playing just banger after banger, hit after hit. And I'm trying to remember what the discussion was like, because I can remember the vagaries of it, where I was like, all right, Connor, if this is going to go on for much longer, I want to have a good time sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to just be angry or amused.
Yeah. Well, I think the sort of latter half of this sort of, I want to call it era of the list, was mainly punctuated by good games, except for that one that we don't talk about. Because we then played Total War and Silent Hills and things like that, and that was a really good time. So Ridge Racer really ushered in at first place, leading the pack here.
Yeah, and it was an absolutely fantastic game to inaugurate this new beautiful period, because I had a whale of a time with Ridge Racer Type 4. I thought this game was magical.
Yeah, this is one that I brought to the list that Ash hadn't played before, so I let her experience it for the first time, and you've
got to understand, listeners. Hitherto this point, Connor had been assaulting me with such classics like Shadow the Hedgehog, The Legend of Kay, which we refuse to talk about, stay tuned, and Fire Emblem Fates as well.
Yeah.
So when he finally brought this to the table, I was like, all right, Connor, we can now be friends again.
Yeah.
I'm back in.
I had a very different image of what the list was going to be, and it wasn't a good time, and then I had to force my hand and pull out the big guns. And
you came packing with the Harkonnen cannon, because this game was a gem. It was wonderful.
Yeah, I love this game.
Is this the first PS1 game we played as well?
Yes, it was.
Weirdly, a console that is not well represented on our list.
No, not really.
We're very 6th gen heavy, a few modern games here and there, but PS1 we've gone back a few times, but not as much as you might think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it says a lot that the first sort of 10-15 games on that list, I think about 5 or 6 of them came out in 2005.
Yeah.
So I think that really says a lot, but
which is weird, because I don't feel like either you or me would say that 2005 is one of our favourite years in games.
No, definitely not.
Definitely not.
I would say it's more of a 2001, 2007,
2017.
2011.
Yeah.
2015. There's much better years for games.
Yeah, but for some reason, 2005 really came together for the list.
No, definitely. So, let's talk about funny car game.
Let's talk about cool car game.
Cool car game.
Yeah, this game is cool.
Yeah, I just say funny just to.
Now, don't denigrate Ridge Racer, please. This is a very cool game.
It is
Nothing funny happens in this game.
It's a very stylish game.
It is a very stylish game.
As a PlayStation 1 game, this is sort of the era where a lot of racing games were very arcadey. In many cases, quite literally coming from the arcade era and onto home consoles.
Yeah, I believe the first few games in the series, or the Ridge Racer series, I should say, were originally arcade games that were then ported to consoles and the kind of, look what the PlayStation 1 can do. It's like the arcade in your home.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
The kind of thing that I think the best console for doing that kind of thing ended up being the Dreamcast. But the PlayStation was otherwise the main console that was able to emulate that.
Well, I think the Dreamcast was the first time they could say that, but they said, we've got the arcade games, but they're better.
Yeah.
Rather than they're just here.
Yeah. And you don't have to spend a ridiculous amount of money just to beat, like, House of the Dead, right?
But you will need a fishing controller.
Yeah.
So.
Sega Bass Fishing. When's that coming on the list?
Never. I don't want to look at a fish.
Not even once.
How dare you?
Oh, damn. Fair.
Yeah, so this game came out in 1998 in Japan. 1999 rest of the world.
Yeah, December of 1998 in Japan. Then...
nice Christmas tree.
Yeah, and it was I think it was May 1999 in America and April.
God knows when in Europe. Yeah.
I think it was like April.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so a little bit earlier.
Damn.
But it was... same with Australia as well, PAL regions.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. The Australians are my third biggest demographic.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I always thought for some reason it was Canada, but Australia...
I would have thought the Canadians would have been more loyal to you considering your prior background, but unfortunately not.
I mean, I've been to Vancouver.
Yeah.
And
Connor's been to Canada once.
And I never shut up about it.
He's even got a hat.
I do have a hat.
Yeah.
Why aren't I wearing the hat? It's my racing hat. All right,
Connor's getting up to go get the hat.
I'm getting...
For this audio podcast that we make.
Listen, if there's one thing about the racing aesthetic, if you see on any of those coaches, any of the characters in Ridge Racer, it's that baseball caps. You're gonna see them.
Yeah. Now that you're wearing that cap, I now think it 27.5% more likely that you'd be a race driver. So the effect is clearly intense.
Hell yeah. I knew it would work out. But, as far as Ridge Racer was concerned, the original versions that came out prior to Ridge Racer Type 4, the first one in particular was definitely just the arcade version, kind of ported onto the home consoles.
I mean, that was right at the launch of the PS1, right? That was like, hey, you want to race a car? This is it.
Yeah, you could
really what you got.
You could really feel it because there wasn't that much to do in it. There really wasn't much on there at all. It felt almost like an exact port, and I have to tell you, as someone that buys these games well after their heyday, doesn't really entice me to go back and collect it or really touch it.
Yeah. Have you played any of the other Ridge Racer games?
So I've played Rage Racer before.
What is Rage Racer? You keep talking about it.
This is a very confusing thing, because Ridge Racer came out, and then Ridge Racer Revolution, which was...
is that two?
Yeah, that's the second one.
Yeah.
And they both fit a very similar style, although Revolution, from what I understand, was kind of glossed over a bit, was a little bit too similar to Ridge Racer 1. So the Namco figured they had to kind of rebuild Ridge Racer from the ground up, and they made Rage Racer, a game that was supposed to be quite a lot more sort of like gritty and that kind of thing.
Oh, really? They came early on that trend and making the gritty reboot in like 1997.
Yeah, no, for real. Because the other Ridge Racers are very neon, very bright, very pulpy, and
I think this is the first game in quite a while where we haven't put on mood lane.
Oh, no, you're right. Yeah. This is just bright,
because we need to have bright, happy colors for Ridge Racer Type 4.
Yeah. I think it works with it.
Yeah.
But Rage Racer went for more sort of realistic style graphics. It was a lot more muted. But that isn't to say that it didn't have energy, because it was surprisingly bright, all things considered.
It was still Ridge Racer. Even though they were going for a slightly different aesthetic, it was still the same high-energy racing game.
Yeah.
Was that Ridge Racer 3? There isn't a Ridge Racer 3, there's just Rage Racer.
Rage Racer, yeah. Which when I was younger, trying to come back and collect these things really confused me. Because I always...
Also infuriating for organising, because technically Rage Racer would have to be before the first two Ridge Racers because it's R rather than I.
Yeah, if you're doing it alphabetically and putting it on your shelf nicely, it just doesn't look right. To be fair, a lot of the groundwork for what would become Ridge Racer Type 4 was in it.
Okay.
There was a drum and bass soundtrack, that sort of thing. A lot of the, I guess I'm going to call it the lore of Ridge Racer comes in.
The lore comes in,
where it's
was
like...
Reiko, Ridge Racer girl, really upset?
She was like a background character.
Okay. I was just wondering why it was called Rage Racer.
Yeah.
I was hoping she'd just be really angry or something.
That's the thing. Nothing about the game, to me personally, and I do say this with fairly hazy memories of it, really screams angry. I was expecting like a Twisted Metal kind of Destruction Derby style game.
Kind of thing.
But it was the 90s. We weren't allowed to be angry yet. We were having a great
Bill
time.
Clinton was still running around, so...
He was playing his little saxophone.
Soothing us. Where does Ridge Racer 64 fit into all this?
That's a great question, because
It's a fantastic question.
I think that came out before Rage Racer.
Really?
I think. I could be wrong.
You could be wrong, because who cares about Ridge Racer 64?
Yeah, well, it's like a lot of 64 ports of games. I mean, there's like Resident Evil 2 N64 or StarCraft 64 or that kind of thing.
Kids, do you want to buy or pay £80 for a slightly worse version of RE2? And I'm there in the shop like, oh, I do.
I don't know, maybe. But that being said, it was also the first one of these games to have a Grand Prix. Rage Racer.
Like a story mode.
Yeah. The difference was in that one was that you had to qualify and you had to get credits depending on how well you did in the race.
Okay.
To buy upgrades and to kind of get yourself through the race.
Oh, that's confusing because it actually sounds more complex than the system in Type 4.
Yeah, it's less so that you had to buy, I guess upgrades is the wrong word, it's more you had to buy better cars.
Right.
Whereas Type 4 system is a lot more linear. It's how well did you place? If you place this well, you get this car. If you place a little bit worse, you get a different one. That sort of thing.
Okay.
But for the most part, they were relatively happy with Rage Racer. I believe it sold just under 1 million. So it was doing quite well, all things considered.
Back in the day when a big game could sell under 1 million, and that would be enough.
Yeah. And then, anyone who's familiar with this generation of racing games will know, Gran Turismo then happened. And everyone who wasn't making Gran Turismo went, oh fuck.
Oh shit.
Because Gran Turismo was like the most advanced racing game at the time. It was a decent balance between simulator and arcade. It had loads of cars in it. It had real cars, like actual brands in them as well. Really good visuals, really good sound, all of this stuff, and it was becoming the new gold standard. And
I mean, by recollection, Gran Turismo is the best-selling PlayStation 1 game of all time.
Is it really?
I think it's Metal Gear, Final Fantasy 7, and then Gran Turismo.
Oh my god.
I think so, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
If I'm wrong, that's fine. I'm fairly certain that's accurate.
To be fair, I will say that although I know that all three of those games were big, I didn't think they would be the top three. Just because to me, I know that Final Fantasy VII is the one that kind of started JRPGs being mainstream, but that's a huge surprise. And
well, it's one of those things that's curious. It's a slight tangent, but it's like a lot of those games that were really big back then and to people from our generation seem like huge, iconic games. They were never like modern game big. They were PS1 game big.
Yeah.
Like, those games have now long since been eclipsed because the industry's gotten so much bigger. Those games being popular doesn't mean that they were as popular as like Grand Theft Auto is or PUBG is, I suppose. They were just popular for that time, you know? Yeah.
Although Grand Theft Auto is a good way for me to segue back in, which is to say that the Gran Turismo being so successful, it was like a GTA 3 moment for the racing game industry.
Everyone had to scramble to catch up.
They were like, oh Jesus, we have to try and do something like this now.
Then
there was also other rising stars. Need for Speed was already kind of making tracks and everything. Diddy Kong Racing,
that was huge.
Which that did leave its mark on like kart races, but
for children,
But that was kind of the thing, was that the arcade racer was being phased out by two branches of kart racing and realistic,
slightly more real car racing.
Realistic racing.
Forza Horizon versus Forza.
Yeah, so I think that at this point Namco kind of panicked and thought, "What the fuck do we do with Ridge Racer?"
Namco. They're always so level-headed.
But I will say, I do respect that what they did is that instead of going, well shit, we need to make Ridge Racer or Rage Racer at this point, we need to make it like Gran Turismo, they kind of stuck with their guns. They went, no, we have a style, we're still an arcadey game, and we're gonna just make the most refined essence of Ridge Racer that we can do.
Yeah, I do actually note with some amusement, now that you've talked about Gran Turismo's influence on the industry, that there is a sticker on your copy of the game with a review score from PlayStation Magazine giving it a 96%, with the quote, a Gran Turismo beater. Yeah. So they were like, yeah.
Well, certainly not in the sales charts.
No, definitely not.
But the thing is that this is still I think, the best performing Ridge Racer game on the PlayStation.
Okay, qualified that. Yeah.
This was a platinum seller. It sold over 1 million. It's the one that I think all the fans of the series consider to be the best one.
Yeah. I consider that.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan.
I
played this one.
Yeah. as having played just that one.
Yeah.
To be fair, I can barely speak as well because Rage Race is my only other point of comparison. And I think I did play one of the earlier Ridge Racers in the arcade at some point.
Oh, that makes sense.
But it's not one that I'm that familiar with because I don't go to the
arcades are having a huge comeback now.
There's
one in the city now, rather than 0.
Hey, listen, there's also the bowling alleys. They have...
Well, those never really went away.
Yeah. You know the biggest surprise is? I don't think they have. There's a Namco-owned bowling alley in Norwich.
The Namco Funscape, yeah.
The Namco
Which you've yet to go to for some bizarre reason. Never made it down
there. Stay tuned for the Namco Funscape episode.
That we do keep threatening to do that to ourselves.
May happen.
Yeah.
But Ridge Racer... I don't think there is a Ridge Racer machine in the Namco Funscape.
That is upsetting.
Yeah.
That does break my heart a little bit.
I have to check it at some point.
Yeah.
But...
Well, when we go down there.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
We will.
We're just going to have like Flappy Road or something like that.
Yeah. But you know what the restaurant is near it? It's called?
What?
The Clock Tower. So it's fated we have to go.
And we did go to the Clock Tower.
We have been to the Clock
when
Tower.
You quit your job to become a cool guy.
But that's when we bring us into this game, Ridge Racer Type 4.
Yeah, that's some good context. I didn't know a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of the main backlog to why it went the way it did. And I find it quite uplifting as a bit of an odd success story in the face of a lot of concerning circumstances.
Yeah, because I feel like you can look across the annals of history gaming edition, get into a book of records, and look at other instances where that's been the case, where games have been inspired by others and changed their core identities to appeal to those demographics. Like, for instance, the example that comes to my mind is Jak 2, where Jak 1 is a very by-the-books, early 2000s 3D platformer with colourful visuals and bright characters.
Yeah.
And then GTA 3 came out, so Jak 2 is an open-world car-robbing game where it's gritty and violent and stuff. And I feel like, to me, Jak kind of lost its soul by trying to chase that audience, where that doesn't seem to have been the case with Type 4.
Yeah, but I think the telling thing is I'll say this outright, which is that I'm also a big fan of the original Gran Turismos on the PlayStation 1.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
see, I like fun.
Yeah.
So I can't really get into that kind of stuff.
That's fair, but because I used to play loads and loads of racing games as a kid. Like, that was kind of probably the most populated genre that I had, was the sort of PlayStation 1 era arcadey racers.
Would you say the second would be platformers?
Definitely. But like, I played but car games, it was really easy for someone who was a kid because it's not violent, it's not graphic, it's not anything like that. My parents were absolutely fine with it.
But I think tellingly, it does make you feel like a cool adult.
Yes, it does.
So it gives you that high, even though it's not violent.
Yeah. So it's like a perfect thing for kids, and also you're like older, teenagers, adults, and everything can play them too. But like I had Gran Turismo, I had Ridge Racer, I had a bunch of other like less successful things like Porsche Challenge.
Please tell us about Porsche Challenge, which has been an ever-present figure in our lives for decades.
Well, sorry. The Porsche Challenge tangent. Less than a minute, let's go.
All right, lay it on.
Porsche Challenge is a game that was made exclusively to sell the Porsche Boxster. You have one car in it, the Porsche Boxster.
How expensive is the Porsche Boxster?
Probably like £250,000 when it was made.
So what do you think the Venn diagram is on people who play PS1 racing games who don't play Gran Turismo and people who could buy the Porsche Boxer?
I'm going to say very narrow, and I never got it. But to be fair, I don't get this about any car stuff. Like, you get adverts for cars all the time, and I always look at them and I think, who is buying these?
It's like, I'm watching Five Nights at Freddy's here. What do you think? My income is not looking great.
Yeah, I can't own this. But in the face of everything, Porsche Challenge, Formula Karts, Micro Machines, Gran Turismo, Formula 197, and all these other games that I had as a kid, my favourite ultimately by the end of them all ended up being Ridge Racer Type 4.
Oh, that's not surprising to hear, but I do find that satisfying in a way, to think that even as a child you knew good shit when you saw it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I decided to verify that myself by kind of playing a few of these earlier today before we talked about this, because I've already played a good chunk of Ridge Racer since I recently did a bit of a surprise stream on my main channel.
Yeah.
Where I was just like, I'm going to play Ridge Racer because I want to. having played that and then playing a few of the other games I liked, I'll say that my second runner-up on that would probably be Micro Machines.
Yeah, Micro Machines.
A game that is radically different from
no
all the other
races. Mad about an admiration for Micro Machines. We should fucking play Micro Machines.
We should play Micro Machines.
I'd love to play Micro Machines.
That'd be good.
Yeah, because we did play Micro Machines when we were wee.
Yes, when we were small. Because I was like, look at this.
17.
No, honestly, and I feel like having visited some of the other games, I'll say the main thing that kind of wins me over with Ridge Racer isn't necessarily the style or the gameplay or anything like that. It's honestly the controls.
Yeah.
Honestly, whenever I play the other racing games I have on the PlayStation 1 era, they can feel so loose. In a lot of the time. I feel, especially a game like Gran Turismo that's trying to be more of a simulator, it's way easier to oversteer and understeer and do all the realistic stuff that kind of throws me off personally, because honestly, sometimes I just want to hold down the accelerator button and just go.
Yeah.
You know, it's why I'm a little bit bummed out at the rise of realistic sim car games, because I'm just like, listen, sometimes I just want to have a brake button and an accelerate button and to do cool drifts.
Yeah. I would say we're going back to Warhammer Ash here, where I have no real interest in racing games. Like, I think Mario Kart is as far as I'm willing to go. Even when we play Crash Team Racing, I'm like, this is too complicated, I'm getting out of here. Just to have nuance on this is bullshit.
Yeah.
But this game, to me, I was able to get into it. One, because I had your guiding words leading me through all the difficult races tracks and stuff like that. But two, because it's very simple, but very satisfying. Like, I feel like you can kind of get it within a few minutes of playing, and then it's just about perfecting your technique, and you can really feel yourself getting better as you go along.
You could say you are trying to create the perfect race.
I am trying to create the perfect race. I never quite got there. No. I did well enough to marry a French girl.
Yeah.
But never to really defeat the Italians.
No, you could not quite impress your Italian dad.
My Italian dad was very upset. Yeah.
That is definitely going to need some context.
No.
All right, well,
I think they got it.
Yeah, all right. Well, look forward to the next half an hour where we'll eventually explain what happens.
It lets people get anticipating. You know, they're like, "Oh, what's that going to be about?"
Yeah.
And they all watched your stream, obviously.
Quite a few people did, at least.
All of them.
All of them.
Everyone
that's listening
Everyone will
right
see
now.
it. Every demographic.
But let's get into Ridge Racer Type 4 and what sets it up as its premise,
And the first thing I want you to tell me about is the opening FMV.
Oh, certainly. This game opens up a little bit different to a lot of the other Ridge Racers and quite a few other racing games, in that it opens up to a image of a woman getting out of bed.
Yeah, not just any woman as well.
Reiko Nagase, I want to say her name is.
I thought her name was Reiko Ridge Racer.
Reiko Ridge Racer.
Yeah.
That would have been so much better.
No, it wouldn't.
Why not?
That encouraged me if my name was actually Reiko Ridge
But the tournament is the Triple R.
Oh, it is. It is the real racing roots.
Yeah, that would have been good.
Yeah,
but
no, she's Reiko. What's it?
Reiko Nagase, I want to say.
Okay.
But the famous Ridge Racer girl, who you will see on a lot of the sort of box art and promotional material for all the Ridge Racer games here and after it.
Yeah, Connor and I are pretty sure that the only reason Reiko exists is for there to be someone to be on the box.
Yeah. Then it's not just cars and logos.
Yeah, like
really.
the copy that we're looking at here, she's on the front cover, she's on the manual, and her face is the disc art.
Yeah, which honestly, the renders of her always ride the line between being like, oh, okay, that's a decent PS1 render to Jesus Christ, you know?
Yeah.
Like, let me get the disc out. I want to look at
Connor's getting the disc.
There was a while where the intro...
The disc is not in the PlayStation 1.
Where the fuck is the disc?
It's behind the manual, you idiot.
Oh God.
It's right there.
Jump scare.
Oh, it is horrifying.
Yeah.
That is not a good Reiko, no.
No.
Everyone please look up the disc now.
No. And that's another part of the intro FMV.
Yeah.
Is that there's one shot where she really does not look good.
Everywhere else... she's like flipping her hair, like at the very end.
Yeah, it's right near the end. But the intro FMV has Reiko getting out of bed, and going about her day in the city, the big city. She's got to get
to her work. She's an office worker.
Yeah, she's just walking along the road.
She's walking to work through like a highway tunnel. It's very confusing.
Yeah, so much so that she breaks her heel, and she ends up having to hitchhike off of a Ridge Racer.
Yeah.
For the record, all this footage is being interspersed with high-speed racing of these four cars gunning through the city.
I'm sure they're meant to be two different events that we're seeing spliced together, but the way it's edited makes it seem like the Ridge Racer stops racing to pick up Reiko.
Yeah.
And then he's like, all right, babe, hold on. And then picks up again.
Yeah, because she ends up hitchhiking from one of the cars, getting into it. She does a weird lip bite, and that's when the render does not look good. And she gets in and the Ridge Race finishes.
Yeah.
Which, at that point, if I was her, like, it's known in the game that she's works for the tournament.
She works for the Ridge Race, yeah.
So I'm just imagining that she was running late and was just like, I'll just get to work in one of the racer's cars.
I know this guy's going where I'm going, so...
Which, you know what?
It's rather cheap of the Ridge Race company not to provide Reiko with a car to get to work.
I was going to say, she could have carpooled.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Maybe it's like The Sims when, you wake up too late and the car goes without you.
It's out of there,
Yeah. I have to tell you, those carpools in The Sims, they've got the patience of saints. They'll sit there for an hour waiting for you.
That's true. And you just don't show up. So really, that's your fault.
Yeah. I actually want to talk about comparing the intro FMV of this game to the one from Gran Turismo as a prime example.
Only if you let me, as a counterpoint, compare it to the opening FMV from Final Fantasy VIII.
Sure. All right. Because what I want to say when it comes to the energy of this game compared to Gran Turismo, which was the big thing to be competing with at the time.
Well, Gran Turismo, I'm going to give you my impression of Gran Turismo, having never played any of its games.
Okay.
I always imagine Gran Turismo to be very clinical. To be like, this is like the purest. We only care about cars here. There are no people. There are just racing and cars.
Yeah, you're very close.
Okay.
Because if we're talking specifically about Gran Turismo 1, Gran Turismo 1's opening is really trying to flaunt the graphics. It has these really dramatic slow pans and zooms of like garages, of roads, of traffic lights. You see a guy...
Some things never change, huh?
A garage door is slowly opening and you see a guy's legs, but no part above him because it would age the FMV horribly. And then the rest of it is just fucking shiny cars and they're all going around corners.
Yeah, and that guy's gonna fuck that car.
What guy?
The Drive Club guy.
Oh,
remember from E3 where he's like, the lever on that car. He's gonna kiss the car, Connor.
Wait, which E3 was this? Which one was Drive Club in?
2013, I think.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Honestly, the way that they fetishized cars in fucking the early E3s, when they just are like, let's announce a new car at the Xbox conference.
Xbox would always show a car on stage, and I'm like, where's Squall?
Where is anything I care about? Why are you showing me a fucking Porsche?
Just show me a trailer for Funko Gears. Come on, please.
Right. I forgot they made a Funko Gears game and it was just XCOM.
Yeah.
Is it? I think it's a tactics game.
No, there was a Gears of War tactics game that was separate from the Funko Gears game. I think the Funko Gears game was a mobile game where it was like a resource game.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh man, those blurred together.
Oh yeah.
Did they announce them in the same conference?
They
Is that
did,
why?
yeah, they did.
That's why. That was the year of Gears, I guess.
The year of Gears.
Why
have they never done that as a marketing thing?
The Years of War.
If they have...
2026.
The Years of War?
20th anniversary of Gears of War. They could do it.
Oh, yeah. When it comes out on PlayStation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. That's the rumor mill going around right now. Will it be true? Find out in your current time when this comes out.
We won't talk about it. We only talk about things that aren't relevant anymore.
Yeah.
Remember when the RE4 remake came out and we were like, dude, the original Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Perfect timing.
I think the closest we've come was with Signalis, and we were still a year late on that.
We were. But the Gran Turismo one, I think the main thing is you have all these impressive shots of the intro, of this sick music playing and everything happening. The cars look really boring. They're so...
No.
No, but specifically, these are plain, realistic, actual cars.
Yeah.
They're showing like, oh look, here's a shiny yellow car next to a shiny white car, and it's kind of, it's very dry, it's very drab, it's very much an enthusiast game.
It's very clinical.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're quite close on the mark there. Whereas Ridge Racer is trying to be a lot more stylish. Sure, like, parts of the FMV don't age quite so well, but it's still quite an impressive one. The cars that are shown on screen are still like pretty damn good looking and everything. It's intersplicing this simple story of someone having a sort of calm walk alongside this high octane racing, which is a good reflection of this game's soundtrack and a lot of its vibe as well.
Because there's a few things I want to say about this game's visuals that I kind of want to say for that specific section, but this FMV is really good at indicating this game's kind of It's less about being exclusively about cars, more about the experience of cars, how cool cars can be.
Yeah.
Like how cars can enhance your lifestyle somehow.
Yeah. None of the cars in Ridge Racer are real. They're entirely made up. They're like made up brands.
The trike isn't real?
The trike isn't real. It's probably based on a real design, but they go very much with these more sort of like almost science fiction-y looks sometimes.
Science fiction, yeah.
But
this is science fact.
Yeah. Maybe our science fiction's overselling it, but
futuristic.
Yeah, like it's what people in the 90s thought cars would become.
Yeah.
I think. But it's a lot more flash. It's a lot more fictional and creative with what it's doing there, rather than just sort of like trying to accurately make the Subaru.
I think it's like accentuating cars rather than perfectly simulating them.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, because I feel like I'm being too harsh on Gran Turismo.
Gran Turismo fucking sucks. Am I right, fellas?
I really want to stress I do like that game.
High five. You hate Gran Turismo now. You high-fived over it.
Damn it! All right, well, I've picked my faction.
There you go.
It's the Micro Machine Ridge Racer Coalition.
I'd be a part of that coalition. That sounds like a good time.
Bringing together two like-minded companies, Namco and Codemasters.
Dude, Codemasters, yeah. They were the masters of code.
They sure were.
That's why we all remember them.
We then get into the title screen. After this whole thing's done, it says, "Welcome to the world of Ridge Racer," and it splashes up with these little like zipping lines in the darkness, and it flashes up with this yellow.
The text is all flickery as well.
Yeah,
it's fantastic treatment.
Yeah, into this yellow menu with this great big logo and a voice echoing "Ridge Racer Type 4." And at that point...
It's a good impression as well, I can confirm.
At that point, you press the start button, you go to select something, and realise that the X button is not okay. It's actually cancel.
It's a Japanese PS1 game, they're all like that.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VII's like that, Metal Gear Solid's like that.
Are they? Alright,
yeah.
This is what I wanted to say, because this is the only one I think I currently own that does that. I think every other game I've owned has always localized it to having X be okay and circle be cancel.
Well, when we do Final Fantasy VII, you'll see.
Oh, yeah. When we play Final Fantasy. So we're going to play one of the... If we're going to play one of those, it'll be 9, I feel.
We already played 10.
Yeah, well, we'll work backwards.
Yeah, sure.
I want to see Vivi. I want to see Steiner.
Vivi is very good, yeah. Vivi is pretty good. That was a pretty not a big trend, but there were a few Japanese games that were just like, no, circles go forward, you idiots. X is back, you dummies. Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah. Noughts and crosses.
Yeah. Although that was the one we were all really into triangle being back.
Yeah, that's true. Why do we look at these shapes and decide
like
that's
different things?
Yeah. I never understood it.
But
Ridge Racer. At this point, there's some fairly bog standard options.
Yeah.
Grand Prix, time trial,
there's a versus, isn't there?
There's a versus mode. Like, that's another thing as well, is Rage Racer took out versus mode. So this bringing
That's
it
why
back...
we were also angry.
Yeah. That's what really gets you pumping, furious. And you take it out on some AI players. But in this case, having it back was like quite a big deal.
Okay.
And hell, I mean, even in Japan, there was almost a sort of Pokemon-style collect and trade mechanic where when you unlocked certain cards, you can save them onto the PlayStation Pocket Station.
What is that, Connor? My Baka Gaijin Westerner ears have no idea what words you're saying.
There was a weird little Tamagotchi-sized device that you could connect to your PlayStation
I described it as being most akin to the VMU from the Dreamcast. It's like it was that before the Dreamcast did it, basically.
Yeah, a little bit like that. This tiny little device you could connect it onto, and it almost acted like a memory card in itself.
Yeah.
Where if you plugged it into someone else's PlayStation, you could kind of trade the cards you had saved on it with other people. The back of the instruction manual actually details how this works, but
no, actually, I don't think it does. I think it just says the Pocket Station might not be real.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, I think it's a little warning saying this might not come out.
Oh yeah, wait a minute. Oh, it does.
Yeah. Hey, Connor.
What?
Did you know what else used the Pocket Station?
What?
Final Fantasy VIII.
Did it?
High five. Yeah.
Did you want to compare the Final Fantasy VIII FMV?
You got a gunblade in it. That's really cool. There are like rose petals that swing with the gun. Oh, it's fucking incredible.
that was the comparison point you wanted to make?
Yeah. Oh, I had nowhere to go with that.
Okay.
I just like saying funny words.
I just know the music from that.
Yeah. Although I will say the Final Fantasy VIII manual also has a description on how to use the Pocket Station, along with a disclaimer that says it might not come out. And it didn't, so...
I didn't expect this to be the game that would have things in common.
You could read about Chocobo World, but you couldn't actually play Chocobo World. So.
That's disappointing.
As a mega fan, I'm crushed, but
I know. But ultimately, we're here to talk about cars. Chocobo, despite their racing potential, are not cars.
That's true. You got me there. Well played.
Yeah. So what is the deal with Ridge Racer? Even if you've not played the original versions of it, what is it like? As I kind of briefly alluded to, Ridge Racer is a relatively sort of simple control scheme. You accelerate, you brake, and there's a sort of drift mechanic that's tied to all of the Ridge Racer games.
Yeah, you can go into first person and third person depending on your preference. Although first person to me seems silly, but
well, I think first person would be more interesting if you could actually see the inside of your car in it.
Yeah, because you can mostly just see the windshield, right?
Yeah. That's the only reason I ever switch to it, is so that I can see the players that are behind me.
Because it defaults to it as well, which is strange to me. It seems like the third person would be the preferred way to play, but
it is to me. Although I have met people that prefer first person, and typically those are people who actually drive.
Do you recall if Ridge Racer begins in the first person by default as well?
I think it might.
Because I was wondering if it was a Gran Turismo influence. It was trying to go for more that simulation vibe.
Maybe, because Gran Turismo absolutely is like that.
Yeah.
You when you start races in Gran Turismo, you pan into the car and do it that way. Which is what makes it so jarring that you can't see the inside of it when you do that.
Yeah.
I know
it's got the same property as James Bond's head.
Yeah.
The camera zooms into it.
But when it comes to the kind of gameplay of Ridge Racer, it's relatively smooth in its controlling. This is late enough into the time span where you have a mix. You can choose analog controls or the D-pads to steer.
Yeah, it's actually got a fancy picture of the DualShock on the back of the Ridge Racer box.
Yeah,
but it's like one of the game screenshots. So it's just like, by the way,
here's the controller you will be using for the most part.
just so you know, keep this in mind.
Yeah. But for the most part, I'd say this is one of the better controlling games that you get from this. Steering.
Could you give me a tier ranking between Porsche Challenge and Gran Turismo and Ridge Racer? Have I just done it?
I think I would put it like that. I'd actually say, if you're talking like my preference, I prefer how Porsche Challenge controls.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Gran Turismo's too loose. Maybe I pick cars that have too loose of a handling, but
you've really Porsche challenged my perception of you.
I know, but I wouldn't say it's a better game.
No, that'd be crazy. Yeah,
not in the slightest. But I think the fact that Gran Turismo eventually became like just straight up a sim. You know, when you get to like the modern Gran Turismos, that's kind of its calling, and I'm glad that it got there eventually.
Yeah.
I think I'd say I prefer Gran Turismo 4 over Gran Turismo 1 and 2.
Is that a PS2 one?
Yeah, that's a PS2 one. Late PS2, I believe. But
so the controls are relatively simple. Easy to learn, hard to master is the way I put it.
Yeah, and you have enough flexibility that that for the most part, it can be, once you're familiar with the tracks that you're playing on, it can be quite smooth sailing.
Yeah.
What I will say is that, for the most part, you have two different types of cars that have different steering modes. You have one that is grip mode, which is a lot more like Gran Turismo. It's very basic. If you slow down, you kind of grip onto the track and turn tightly.
When you described this to me, this is what I presumed all racing games were like. I think whenever I play any racing game, whether it be Mario Kart, Gran Turismo, Blur, or something more arcadey or simmy, I always think that's the way it has to be. I think that's how cars actually work.
Yeah.
As you brake and that makes you turn right.
Yeah. I think cars can work both ways, but there's more complications to it.
To me, this is the default, though. This is what I think in my brain is how cars work.
Yeah. Although that was, primarily, in my opinion, I think that was influenced by the success of Gran Turismo, because that's what it's like in that sort of game.
Yeah, because drift is the mode from the earlier Ridge Racer games, right?
Yeah. The other mode is drift, as Ash has mentioned, which is where as you're getting around turns, you slow down a bit, and as you're turning, you accelerate, forcing the back end of your car to kind of like slide, and that gives you that Tokyo Drift sweet turn that you get. And
it wouldn't have been quite as good if it was called Tokyo Grip.
Yeah, not really. But I will say is that while there's a few moments where grip mode can be quite satisfying, and while it's probably the better choice, in my personal opinion, drift is so much more fun.
Yeah, drift sounds way cooler.
It's so great to just nail a really like sliding turn and just bypass like your opponents while you're going around like that. It feels so stylish to do, and you are absolutely styling on anyone that you're against with it.
When you were doing your stream, were you playing with drift?
I was, yeah. Well, because the stream I did, I played normal mode and then I played expert. Okay. And in expert, I chose the drift cars, and
same.
I had a great time with
That's
it.
what I did as well. Normal expert.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah. I nailed it first try. It was you should have been there. You'd left the room for a bit.
And you did the whole expert campaign.
It was incredible.
That's incredible. Wow.
I made my Italian husband so proud.
But that's kind of like the main thing I would say about the controls in that way. And as well as mechanically, that's the main thing.
I mean, really, the game is so simplistic in terms of its, not presentation, but its modes and its offerings, that the game is essentially, in its entirety, its base mechanics. And in this instance, the mechanics live up to that purpose. They support the weight of this entire game because they're so much fun to master. Like, you feel yourself getting better at them in real time, basically.
Yeah.
Like, you'll do one race, not do quite as well as you thought you would do, or you hope to do, and then you think, alright, I know exactly how to use the controls differently next time to do better, and that's what makes it so satisfying.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree.
Like, even as someone who doesn't know racing games and who won't play racing games other than for this podcast that we do, I had a lot of fun just doing the races over and over, trying to improve my times, master the grip, turning a bit better, and just doing better each time.
Yeah. I like to try and visit this game every few years or so, and whenever I initially get into it, I have to readjust. Yeah. But once you are back into that groove, it is so good.
It's like riding a very high-powered bicycle.
Some might even call it a car.
No. It doesn't seem right.
But, of course, we've talked about how the game controls, but what the hell are you controlling? Your cars, obviously, and that's the big thing that a racing game generally brings to the table.
Write that down.
As much as they can flaunt Ridge Racer Girl and advertise her, that's not the main focus of the game in the slightest.
Ridge Racer Girl is very, very absent from the game's actual proceedings.
Yeah.
She holds up a sign, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. A lot of the time when you start a race, you'll see her at the front, like, sort of holding up the sign to kind of say, like, ready, set, go, kind of thing.
And then she becomes polygonal.
Because the rendering distance means... Yeah.
Well, also because she's obviously not an FMV anymore, so she's a real PlayStation 1 character model, and I don't recognise her. She's just, like, 17 triangles.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I had to point her out to you.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the vehicles themselves, Ridge Racer supposedly boasts that there are 200 cars in the game, which is quite the boast. That's a hell of a thing to flaunt.
I straight up, on the face of it, don't believe it.
No.
That doesn't seem right to me.
From my experience of playing the game and understanding how the cars are unlocked, I believe what they actually mean is that there's about 50 cars.
And then they have, like, stat variants, I presume.
It's not stat variants, it's just skins.
Oh.
There's 4 main racing teams and there's 4 main models of cars. And the model is the most important thing. That's what actually defines what types of cars you are playing as a racing
that makes sense.
Because, like, I guess they might also be stretching it and saying that automatic and manual are different versions of the cars, which that's entirely marketing guff, if that's the case. But the main vehicle types are the Italian model Assolutos, the American model Lizard, the French model RJ Solo, and the Japanese model Tarazi.
Right.
3 of those 4 already were in Rage Racer. There was a different but they were slightly different. Like there was a different 4th manufacturer that was an all-rounder. I believe they were called like Assad, I think. Or something like that.
Yeah.
The main thing with the vehicles is that they're primarily just aesthetic purposes.
Yeah.
They each have a distinct style to them. What I will say is that Assoluto and Lizard are the drift cars in this case, while as Tarazi and Arch Solo are the grip cars.
Right.
The Assoluto ones are mainly punctuated by being these very sleek and stylish Italian-style cars. They're trying to be Ferraris, Lamborghinis, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
The thing is that, like, the first one you get always looks goofy to me. It has a weird shark fin on the back as like an air intake. And
I mean, I'll be honest, not a lot of the cars in this game look actually cool to me. Like,
really?
They're all a bit silly by my eye, but...
that's fair. I think it might be the main thing that wins me over with it. Is that as a kid, like, listen, I grew up to be a cool man guy, and I fucking love cars.
Yeah.
Not to the point where I want to know anything about how they work, but just that I want to see...
want to drive them.
Yeah.
You're the guy who wants to play Ridge Racer Type 4 and not Gran Turismo.
Yes.
You just want to race the cool cars.
Exactly. I'm the that makes me wonder if there's a very close parallel universe where I would have gotten really into Fast and Furious. Like, I don't know, maybe...
There's still time.
Like, to the point where I would actually know what the fuck Vin Diesel and Dwayne The Rock Johnson are actually called in those films. Because apparently they're not just themselves. That's the most ludicrous thing to me.
They're called family.
Ah, they are.
Yeah.
They are. And Jason Momoa is going to tear apart that family.
Aquaman?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think Jason Statham, but I don't fucking know.
Jason's running around.
There's a lot of Jasons, and they hate family. They should form a collective, the Jasons Against Family, or Jam. Or Jaff.
Jam.
The Jasons against
Mamily.
Mamily. Please, listen. Between the two of us, you get to have the English degree. I get to...
That was the distinction, was it?
Yeah. I get to like cars.
I feel like you lost out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, tell me about the French.
The French cars, by comparison, the Arge Solo cars, they're a similar one where they have these very cool, distinct looks to them.
Are they drift or grip?
These ones are the grip ones.
Yeah.
That they tend to have a more kind of classical look to them, at least from my experience. They're normally trying to emulate some more real-world cars from several different parts of history, but they still have a very distinctly like high-tech, impressive, wow kind of thing to them.
Yeah, because they're all like racing cars. None of them are like a Ford Impreza or anything like that.
No, they're not. When I was streaming, though, there were occasionally moments where a car would load in, and then someone in the chat would be like, "This looks like an X bolted onto a Y."
Yeah,
and it's like that makes sense that's how they did it.
It's got a real gacha game animation to it, where when you get a new car, it arrives in a lorry, and then the lorry's rotating around, and then as the lorry rotates past the door opens, and you see the new car.
Yeah,
and you've got like beach bikini Ford Impreza.
Yeah. Yeah, they all have like one word names as well. It's always like bonfire, wisdom, passion,
Tyke.
Trike. The wild boar, like, is
Those
the name of the
words.
trike. Yeah, but they're bolted together.
Oh,
Like that's normally
can
the way
they do that?
I think they can.
Damn.
In the fictional world of Ridge Racer, I think they can
do
make
make
up
the rules,
words. Yeah.
I mean, there's a hyphen in the title right there.
Yeah.
No, there isn't. I lied to you.
Yeah, actually, that's a fun thing. The title's all one word, no spaces. Ridge Racer Type 4.
Wow.
For the PlayStation.
I think I've been writing this game's title wrong all my life. I always put a hyphen between type and 4.
It's technically R4 : Ridge Racer Type 4.
Hotel Dusk.
Hotel Dusk. The Lizard cars are trying to emulate American cars. They're trying to be like Fords and that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Where they're usually very bulky, chunky cars. I actually quite like how they look, although sometimes with the PS1 graphics, they basically look like a metal lasagna, and it's not
Yeah, the kind
great.
of car that Garfield would be driving down to the rally.
Listen, if Garfield Kart had anywhere near as much style as Ridge Racer Type 4,
Could you
maybe
imagine?
it would have been worth anything to the world.
Could you imagine in Garfield and Reiko's dress? Damn, girl.
Him taking a walk down the road with his...
I gotta go for a second. I got some business to take care of.
Oh my god. And the last thing is Tarazi. They're meant to be sort of a Japanese car manufacturer. Although, the thing with them, though, is that when you're doing quite well with Tarazi cars, they always look like weird, high-tech experimental cars.
Yeah, they were.
There's the trike, there's like the rocket car.
Well, to me, the rocket car looked like the car that you get from Professor Frink in The Simpsons Hit and Run.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
The one that you get as Homer. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fucking... That's the kind of vibe I get from it, too.
Yeah.
I think that's why I call it a rocket car, even though it's probably more like a 1970s
Well,
weird...
to me, it looks like, when you see footage of like old Formula One racing, where it is like very boxy, open top cars, and stuff like that. It's got that kind of vibe to me.
It does a bit. So it's very unusual how it melds the styles together.
Yeah.
I mean, the highest end Tarazi car looks like the fucking Batmobile. Like it's really silly, and I really like it for that.
Fantastic, yeah.
Although that's actually a good point to say in terms of cars looking like older cars, is that Rage Racer added a bunch of cars that were like pickup trucks and like classic cars and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, and in this game they completely cut that to just try and be sleek, modern
focus on a
sports.
bit more of a specific niche, yeah.
Which I don't mind so much, because I do like how the cars look. They're not to everyone's tastes.
No.
But we do have to talk about how, when you 100% the game, you unlock the Pac-Man car. That is just Pac-Man's big round head, and he's smiling with his thumb up.
No way.
Yeah,
Wait,
he just
is
has
it
real...
shaped like that?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's just that on wheels.
Wait, how do you 100%... Do you have to get every car?
I think you have to get every car.
God.
Which is hard to do.
Does that mean you have to play some races and lose, or do poorly?
Yeah. Yeah, you do. We'll talk about the unlocking system if that sort of gives some context here, because The main way you unlock new cars is through the Grand Prix mode.
Yeah. It's basically that your performance in each race dictates the budget that your team gets for the next series of races. So you get a better car depending on if you do well or not.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Typically, if you are always at the lowest rung, you won't get any upgrades at all.
Yeah.
Which often means that you're stuck with your first car for the entire thing. If you're getting third place both times,
and every other team is getting their upgrades, so they're going faster and faster, and it's just more and more impossible to catch up.
Yeah. That's what I mean about it being a more streamlined version of Rage Racers. You're not having to buy your new cars, it's just you're assigned one per...
It's also a weird little quirk where they decided to lean more towards simulation than an arcadey, more natural, or not natural, but a more mechanical experience where in this game, if you're doing badly and you're struggling, you're going to keep struggling because you're not getting a better car, basically.
Yeah.
It's not like dynamic difficulty where it makes it easier if you don't do well. It makes it harder if you don't do well.
Yeah. That being said, there is one thing to compensate for that, which is that whenever you... there's always a weird coincidence, which is that whenever you don't get new cars, neither do your opponents.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They always go sorry, we couldn't get you a new car, we just made your current one slightly faster.
Yeah.
But it seems like the other teams couldn't afford
Everyone
to either.
else just felt badly for you, so...
It just makes me think that the world of Ridge Racer revolves entirely around you doing well.
When you are the Ridge Racer.
Yeah, no one's watching if you're not racing all over that ridge.
Yeah, there's always helicopters swooping to get the best shot of you.
Yeah, there are. That's always a funny thing.
Yeah.
That's worth talking about with the racetracks, actually, because I think the main one with that helicopter on it is one of the Japanese ones, Wonder Hill and
Out of Blue.
Out of Blue, yeah.
Out of Blue.
Out of Blue. There's
Me at the ink store.
I believe there's 8 tracks.
Yeah.
All of which are either set in Japan or specifically New York.
Yeah, the 2 locations.
And in many cases it's the same locale, but they've just closed off one part of the road and giving you a new part of it. And I gotta say, that's one part of the game I find very disappointing.
Yeah, 100%. It's a very slight package. It's not really got too much to it.
Yeah, it's not a complete deal breaker because there's usually variety. For instance, the time of day will be different if there's alternations of the same track. Main exception being New York, which is that in all 3 New York maps, they're always at night. Where it's okay.
Yeah, because Governor Andrew Cuomo signed an executive order blocking out the sun. Since the dawn of time, man has yearned to destroy the sun, so...
Indeed, and it was the American dream to finally fulfill that wish. Japan can keep it. It's the land of the rising sun.
It is the land of the rising sun. That's kind of baked into the national fabric.
Yeah, indeed. Which is why you get the sunrise-sunset tracks there. Yeah.
Yes.
And Phantomile, named after Klonoa.
For the Nintendo Wii.
And you might think, a Klonoa-themed racetrack? Is it all colourful and vibrant? Are there Moogs? No, it has a giant Pac-Man in it, though. Moogs.
They looked at Moogle and they went, nah, too long, too many syllables. Moog.
Yeah, that's the name of the little guys, and you hit them with your ring and they become round.
Klonoa said that with such conviction, with such earnest honesty, that I just found it enthralling.
Klonoa did not do very well.
No.
But I do.
Then why did they make Klonoa volleyball?
Because they were we already have a game about round things.
Trying really hard. Want some of that Crash Bandicoot money and we just can't get it.
Yeah, sadly not. They were beaten at their own game.
Yeah, sure.
By Crash Boom Bang.
Yeah. Is that a real game, Crash Boom Bang?
That's a real game.
What's it? Is it good?
No.
What's it about?
It's a Mario Party ripoff.
Isn't that just... Wait, what happened to Crash Bash?
It's the sequel to Crash Bash.
There was a sequel to Crash Bash?
Yeah, because it's Crash Bash and it's Crash Boom Bang.
What, they're going to make Crash Whip Wallop?
Maybe if Crash Boom Bang had done well, and it sure didn't. And I'm glad. Not doing well on the DS is a very bad sign.
It was on the DS?
It was on the DS.
Oh my god, this is... I had no idea.
Listen, I've always had strong feelings about party games on handhelds, which is that why?
What's the point?
Yeah,
it's like Mario Party DS, what are we doing?
The number of those that exist... We're getting sidetracked.
Actually, speaking of Mario and Mario Kart, you saying that there's only 8 tracks suddenly flipped a switch in my brain where I realised that it's like if you played Mario Kart, did the first Grand Prix, and then that was it.
Yeah.
And the game was over, and that's all you get.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. This game is very much reliant on its like replay value of like trying to get new cars and trying the different teams' difficulties, because otherwise it's the same tracks each time.
Yeah.
I do quite enjoy them though. There's a lot of fun corners to go around, and I do appreciate when it does mix up its same locales by having different times of day.
You know, they're kind of throwing all the power they can at the PS1 to make some quite visually arresting tracks, like with lots of like sunsets and like rolling hills and urbanscapes and stuff like that. Like, it can look quite pretty, but obviously for a PS1 game.
Yeah, there's like the harbour map. There's the one that goes all the way up the mountain, and which is like I would personally call the hardest track, Heaven and Hell.
The name is appropriate then.
Yeah, and also by default has the best music, but we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
But then like the final track is this very simple sort of high speed loop. But you have 6 laps of that, and it's
What's it called?
Shooting Hoops.
It's
the one that's set 10 minutes before the new millennium.
Oh, in the Racing Roots tournament.
Yeah. But it's quite fun. I think that's.
I don't think there's any track that I think is bad either. They're all good at what they're trying to do, basically.
I agree with you there. I think that that's not a bad segue to talk about visuals.
This game has visuals.
Yeah, it does look.
It does. Oh, baby. It does look.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh. Like, if you've been listening to us talk about this game thus far and thought to yourself, this seems like a really simplistic racing game with not much to do in it. It's like, yeah, but you want to be looking at it for as long as you possibly can. Yeah. This game has got style coming out of every hole.
Yeah. This is what I mean about how they looked at Gran Turismo, and despite panicking a little bit, they then went, okay, we need to compete with Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
Because on a graphical level, it's really good at not only keeping up good fidelity, but also maintaining a style. Like, to compare it briefly to Rage Racer's lighting is very flat.
Oh, really?
It's sort of to be expected.
Yeah.
It's. I find my main memories of that game are very just like full bright, middle of the day kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it makes the name so weird.
That is very confusing.
Yeah,
but let's not get into that.
But Ridge Racer is really good at utilizing those sunrise, sunsets, having this sort of like volumetric lighting.
Yeah.
Volumetric might be the wrong word, but
like ray traced, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's got RTX on, bruh. Yeah. But
I love that brings out your jock voice.
Yeah, dude, RTX racing. Dude, I was playing Half-Life 2 the other day, and I installed a mod.
Wow.
That gives me the Tau cannon from Half-Life 1 again, dude.
I don't know what any of that means, but I'm happy for you.
Neither does Jock Broman. He just installed some mods and didn't know what they did.
Yeah. Everyone's naked now, but that's cool.
I did know someone like that. There was a girl I knew in college who was like, I bought this game recently, installed a bunch of mods on it, and I was like, can you tell me anything about it? She went, no.
We should get her on. She seems like an insightful person.
I'll see if I can reach out to her. It's been years.
So the game is quite technically proficient, but I think the thing that really brings it all together is its like visual package, I suppose. Like all the menus, the transitions, all the text treatment is like so stylish. And we're talking about an era in games in which the jump from Final Fantasy 7 to 8 was like, you can see they have a face now.
Yeah.
This is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Whereas this game's like doing all kinds of cool like visual styles and transitions and things that make it look really, like to really make everything really pop out, basically.
Yeah. This is one of the most under the radar, underappreciated, stylish games.
Yeah.
I really wish that more games would look at it and tried to kind of emulate its visual style for menus.
I feel like for me, I remember part of the reason, because obviously this is one of our early games, so this is when the list was kind of formless and shapeless, and we were still trying to figure out what it was, basically, and you were like, all right, I want to play Ridge Racer Type 4. It's a racing game. And I was like, okay, I mean, I don't like racing games that much. And all it took to sell me on it was the first time we got into the Garage Talk menu, where it does that sweeping guitar, like a piano riff at the opening, and it opens up on this big yellow X, and it looks so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. What I'll say is that if you're the kind of person that had your mind blown by looking at like Persona 5's visual style, you'll probably like Ridge Racers.
Oh yeah, 100%. There's definitely a lot of crossover there, especially with this and Persona 4 with the yellows and the big bold fonts and stuff.
Yeah, and I guess in a similar mode of comparing it to that soundtrack, jazzy.
Oh my, jazzy, stylish, energetic, just really, really good music. Wonderful bass lines, good synths, like really good PS1 synths as well. Like nothing else on the PS1 really sounds quite like this, which is impressive for that console.
Yeah. There was a bit of drum and bass in Rage Racer as a comparison point, and there's still some in here, but they mix it in with house and like jazz and really good electric stuff.
A little bit of soul at times as well, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic for that. And I'm going to put it out here. I'll always...
Connor's making a proclamation. Here we go.
This might be my favourite soundtrack in a video game.
I don't agree, but I I can see it.
You don't have to agree with me having a favourite.
No. I mean, it's that good. Like,
Yeah.
It definitely deserves to be someone's favourite, because it is electrifying.
If I was to backpedal at least one point, I'd say it's at least top 5.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I have a lot of favourite soundtracks, but I think that this is the one where, like, you ask me on the spot and it's the first answer I'll give you.
Yeah. But this is definitely in the running for me. Like, this is one of those soundtracks that I have on my phone, like, that I listen to outside of the game frequently, like, all the time.
Yeah. It's a great mix of calm tracks as well as energetic tracks.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a score that emotionally moves me or sweeps me. So in a couple ways it does.
Yeah, but it does exactly what it needs to do, which is to kind of sell to you the high action, intense stylish world of Ridge Racer, right? Like, it kind of puts you in a certain place, I feel.
Yeah. There's some fantastic ones. I think the ones that immediately come to mind as like big favorites is Pearl Blue Soul, Naked Glow, Move Me, which is one of the hypest racetracks I think I've ever heard.
Isn't there one called like Moving in Circles or something?
Moving in Circles is the one that plays during the final race. Yeah.
I think for me the highlights are Moving in Circles, Garage Talk, and One More Win.
With the vocals over it as well, which I think in canon is meant to be the Ridge Racer girl, is meant to be Reiko.
Yeah, definitely. Because she's singing about the Ridge Racer and how he makes her feel.
Yeah, I mean, this is I'll say briefly that a part of the Ridge Racer soundtrack was actually sampled by a rapper a few years back.
Oh, really?
Rapper called JPEG Mafia sampled.
JPEG Mafia, hottest kid in the streets. Hell yeah, man.
He made a song called Bold, and he samples a part of Move Me. Kind of an unexpected part of the song, because Move Me has a really great intro. It has a bunch of really, really energetic, fast-paced parts into it. But he samples one of the slower parts of it. In a really, really good way, to the point where some people purposefully try to adjust that song to sound like JPEG Mafia's sample of it, to listen to it instead.
Cool.
It's a fun alternative, and it's kind of a flattering thing, because when someone samples your work like that, it's a real appreciation for your craft and how you kind of remix it into your own.
Especially when you're a fourth entry in a long since dormant racing series that doesn't really have any modern relevance. Like, to get someone doing your music in that way is like, it really speaks to how iconic this music is. Yeah.
It's also worth noting that one of the composers, there's about 5, but one of the composers of this game, Kota Takahashi,
nice.
He is fairly active on YouTube. He's also making new songs and new versions of songs in the style of Ridge Racer type.
He's pretty active in his comments for people remixing his tracks, with bold statements about the future of people and unity being brought together by his songs.
Yeah, like when you put it like that, it sounds a little bit more of an ego-y thing.
I think it's more of a translation thing.
Yeah, but it's nice to hear. It's nice to hear him interact with the community.
Is that the same with the Daytona guy?
Yeah,
that guy just loves people enjoying his music.
Oh yeah, no, the Daytona vocalist. I mean, he did a song in Smash Brothers.
Did he?
Yeah, he there was an F-Zero song that he did the vocals over.
My brain was just like, yeah, he did One Winged Angel.
Oh, that's amazing. If he'd done Advent Children, One Winged Angel.
100%, yeah.
I'm trying to imagine it now. But yeah, there's loads of remixes of these songs on the internet. You'll find a lot of Naked Glow because people really like doing the bass line.
Bass line is incredible.
Yeah, but Move Me as well has some incredibly hype, very, very hype remixes.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's why those ones sit so well in my mind, is because so many other people have done their own spins. So
because they sit so well in other people's minds as well.
Yeah.
Those are the ones.
It's a bit like how, as an F-Zero fan, I can't be too mad that everyone remixes Mute City and Big Blue, because they are very good.
Yeah, I know it's the same reference, but it's like, dude, people keep remixing One Winged Angel, but it's rad.
Yeah,
so I can't be too angry about that.
Yeah, more than Dancing Mad.
Dancing Mad's too long.
Yeah.
It's got too much going on for you to remix it. It would take too much time.
It's a big project, a big undertaking.
There's that one guy who's remixed the Extreme for Final Fantasy VIII, and I'm like, yeah, that guy.
Honestly, the presentation for this game is just kind of astounding for the hardware at the time.
100%.
And I think
no other game on the PS1 had this much grace oozing off of it, you know?
The talent really makes it, and again, to compare it to Gran Turismo has a great soundtrack.
Yeah.
It's a really cutting-edge looking game, and this game was like, cool, we're gonna compete with you not by doing the same thing as you. We're gonna make our own fucking pillar. We're gonna ooze such style and essence. We're gonna go with this new wave look that is going to give us an identity that will live well beyond.
Well, I think, honestly, just the nature of the industry at the time meant you had space for that, right?
Yeah.
Like, there was enough room for these games to do different kinds of styles rather than homogenizing into one bland paste.
Yeah, that's something that when you look at modern gaming nowadays, it's like, God damn it, guys, stop making The Last of Us.
No!
I think now it's worth us talking about the Grand Prix.
Yeah, this is kind of the game's bread and butter, because it's the story mode of the game.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit more involved than you might expect, because there actually is a set of different stories you can experience based on what team that you choose, which is kind of the thing that I find the most appealing about the game. Other than its style, I think these stories both amuse and actually kind of impact me in a certain way, because some of them are actually quite, not meaningful, but nice, you know?
Yeah, there's ways that they execute them, especially when they wrap them all together at the end.
Yeah.
That is actually quite endearing for being fairly piecemeal sort of stories.
I think the best way I could describe them is that they're very memorable.
Yeah.
And we've been making bleak references to them for the last, 4 years.
Yeah.
We still have to say to each other, the perfect race!
The perfect race.
Which
yes.
is the Italian team's motivation.
Indeed. It's also a bit awkwardly laid out on the menus because for
It's
some reason...
very awkward. This is the most confusing thing about this game.
Yeah. So imagine you have 4 buttons in front of you, right? And button 1 is expert mode, button 2 is easy, button 3 is normal, and button 4 is hard.
Yeah.
And by default, it puts you on button 3.
Yeah. And you have to go back to the other options.
Yeah,
it's just what?
It's very bizarre.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth us maybe going in the order that we played them in ourselves.
Okay. I can tell you about my beloved Sophie Chevalier, I suppose.
Certainly. From the
French campaign, which is expert mode.
Yeah, from the RT Micro Mouse Mappy, the easy mode of the game.
Expert mode, the French character, which I played.
Yeah, the easy mode.
Oh. Let me lie at least once.
We can't have misinformation on the podcast. We already nearly told everyone that Time Splitters did not have a campaign.
That's true.
When it did, it just didn't have a very good one.
Alright, so the French campaign is the easy mode, sadly, for my credibility.
It's the one that warms you up.
It is the one that warms me up, and it warmed my heart, because it concerns the tale of a French girl named Sophie Chevalier, who is the scion of a very reputable and wealthy French family, who has seemingly been assigned the job of race manager just to keep her busy over the summer. Her dad's trying to arrange a marriage for her, and she's being a little rebellious about it because, arranged marriages are kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
So she's been given the charge of this racing team and has no idea what she's doing.
No.
Between every race, you have these little story sections where you go back to the garage and you talk to your manager. And every time she's just like, I talked to this one guy who told me that the wheels go round and that's good. And then she gives a thumbs up and then that's it.
She's always like, wow, you did really well in the races, but I was told that I shouldn't be so excited about that right now, so...
And my favourite one is when she's like, wow, you came in first, that's so exciting. I didn't watch it, but good job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she's always referring to this Donald character, who's the actual manager of the team, who seems much more well-informed about these things, but you never speak to Donald, he never comes up. It's just Sophie being like, you seem like you're doing okay, I don't know.
Yeah. Every single one of these campaigns, you always are speaking directly to one character, and they might be kind of off-screen or offhandedly referring to someone else, but it's almost entirely told from the lens of this one other person.
Yeah. And that results in some incredibly efficient storytelling, my favourite example of which being that by conversation 2 with Sophie, she's like, so I'm having an arranged marriage. Let's get into it, random ridge racer.
Yeah, she really confides a lot in you.
Yeah.
Who I can only assume, just my fiction of who the ridge racer is the ridge racer is just a guy in a full racing suit, like
he's like the Stig. Yeah.
And no one knows what he actually looks like. He's just an enigma.
Sophie's just like, I can just rely on you. You're such a reliable guy.
I like to think he's perfectly silent as well, just gives thumbs up and accentuates body language to communicate.
Yeah.
Favourite silent protagonist.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yeah, as you kind of go through and you continue to win races and qualify through the Real Racing Roots tournament, which is, for the record, it's set across the year of 1999.
Ending on the New Year's.
Yeah, it ends on the New Year's, the new millennium, which I want to say I love that as a premise.
Oh, 100%. When you get to that final race and they've got all the fireworks going off and it's counting down to the end of the year, it's really incredible.
Yeah, I love that as a framing device for this kind of game. And it's so hype when you get there because it's like I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna win, I'm gonna mark
this one's for you, Sophie.
This is the last victory of this millennium and the first one of the next. It's that kind of thing.
It feels like a celebration, like a festival.
Although it's very funny if you lose that final race because then you get a retry function and when you lose races, even if you eventually win later, the people you were talking to still acknowledge that you lost the previous tries and had to do it again. So I like to imagine that you get to that final race and you go like, okay, no, everyone start again.
I didn't win, so...
Set the clock back to 10 minutes and we'll
get the fireworks back up again. Like, I'm going to win this, okay? My French wife is very rich.
Yeah, What are you implying about Sophie Chevalier?
Well, the thing about Sophie, the Sophie arc, the development that Sophie experiences is that she begins to become more and more, I guess, independent and engaged in the racing tournament as you rack up the wins. She's like, oh, I'm actually kind of getting into this. I feel like I have a purpose in life now.
Yeah.
And she eventually does pluck up the courage to say, I'm going to tell my father I'm not marrying the man he wants me to. And then there's kind of like an there's like an implication that she's going to marry you instead to the Ridge Racer.
Yeah, like there's a credit sequence that shows a nighttime road going by and these slow-moving sort of text moving up.
Yeah.
It's different for each character at the end of the story, but for Sophie's, it's the implication that she's found someone else she's going to marry. And just based on the way stories are told, I think it implies that she marries the Ridge Racer.
She's my French wife.
She is your French wife.
That's my Ridge Race canon.
And
yeah. And that is my Ridge Racer story. That is the only campaign that I've actually played.
You played the one after this.
Oh, so I played a bit of it, and then I got creamed. So I had to give the controller to you, and then you finished it for me.
Oh, I completely forgot this.
No. So I think I did like the first race and won that, and then I completely balked the second one, and I was like, all right, Connor, it's your time now.
Oh, fair enough.
Because I think we were just trying to see at least one more story.
Yeah. Because I remember when we initially played this, we did 3 of the stories. Because I think we did Sophie's, we did the pack racing team, pack racing crew, my mistake. And the Italian team as well afterwards.
Who are the pack racing team?
They are the Japanese.
The Japanese, right.
I did want to just end the Sophie thing as saying that I do quite like her as a character.
She's cute.
I like when she's like, they won't even listen to my suggestions on what to do. So and then she eventually really takes the reins and becomes like basically
she discovers her real racing roots.
Yeah. There's always 2 stories that sort of parallel. Oh, you're looking at me. You're giving me a look of...
I require the acknowledgement from my amazing joke, please. I worked hard on that one.
Well played. Well played.
Let's handshake on that one.
We will.
Yeah. That's not time.
I'm going to amplify this movement by like 40 decibels. Yeah, that better have come up on the...
We can only hope.
There's always 2 stories that sort of parallel, whether it's by theme or by events in this game. And Sophie's kind of parallels with the dig racing team, the expert mode.
Yeah.
Which is that while Sophie kind of like takes the reins and kind of becomes the owner of this team and starts a new life, the dig racing team has the inverse happen, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah.
Instead, we're going to jump over to the normal campaign, which is the pack racing team, which is a brand new team. It's like a brand new upstart that's only just entered the business, and this is their first year. They're trying to prove themselves.
And they hired a real manager.
A man called...
Although, isn't he very depressed?
He is very depressed. There's a guy called Shinji Yazaki.
Yeah.
And he immediately opens up the game by complete contrast to Sophie, saying, all right, I don't care who you are. Go out and race, whatever. Just don't ruin our non-existent reputation for us.
Don't embarrass me out there.
And even when you win, you get first place like twice in a row. He goes, "Oh, big whoop! What is this fluke? Like, I feel like I'm being joked around with. Are you kidding me?" And then
he's very Simpson.
And then he very much is like that. But the thing is that by the 4th race, he goes from completely hand waving and brushing you off to being like, all right, listen, I'm with you for the long haul. I've got your back every step of the way.
I knew I was tough on you from the start, but I believed in you always.
Yeah, you're my guy. We're gonna make this happen. And then drama.
No.
It's secretly revealed.
So none of us know about it.
It's actually, complete opposite. It's publicly revealed that...
It transpires.
Yeah. That Shinji was actually a part of a big accident that happened 13 years ago in the Real Racing Roots tournament, which was that he was previously part of the Italian team and inadvertently caused the death of one of his fellow drivers, a man called Guilano. I think I'm pronouncing his name right, Guilano.
Yeah. And
Guilano ended up dying in the Real Racing Roots tournament, and Shinji resigned and kind of went to the shadows ever since in disgrace.
Moved to the Far East.
Yeah. Which I guess is home.
Yeah.
And then eventually, after 13 years, decided to muster up the courage to finally come back and be a part of the racing scene again.
Yeah.
Which is
to rediscover his real racing roots.
Yeah. Reconnect with them.
Yeah.
I hope you've got one for all of these.
We can only hope. I'll be working on it, don't worry.
Which is why he's probably so flippant about you not ruining his reputation and why he's so harsh on you. It's not like a complicated character motivation, but...
I don't think any of them are that complicated.
Yeah. I will say one thing, though, that's unique to the Japanese team, which is that if you win the first, 4 races in a row, first place, you actually get a letter from Reiko.
From Ridge Racer Girl?
From Ridge Racer Girl Reiko.
That's quite an honor.
Where she says, hey, I'm not allowed to say this, but you're secretly my favorite team, and I really want you guys to win.
Yeah, it's because it's a home advantage thing.
Yeah.
Because she's Japanese as well.
Yeah.
She's meant to be neutral as well. I'm going to have to raise this with the commission.
I know. Yeah. No, I'm surprised she hasn't been fired.
She should be.
No, it's disgrace. Corruption in our real Racing Roots tournament.
I want a remake of the Ridge Racer Type 4 intro FMV, but when the Ridge Racer opens the car to let her in, he gives her a pink slip.
Oh, no. Alright, this is your 3rd violation.
Yeah, alright, you're out.
You're out of the company. But, as, the normal mode, it's, the kind of most baseline sort of story.
100%, yeah.
There's not much more I can say on it other than that, but I can talk about the campaign that parallels it, which is the Italian team. As we know, that Shinji...
Which is, by my estimation, the funniest of the 4 campaigns.
It really is. So, the Italian team is led by a man called Enki Gilbert, who is this fairly old Italian man. He's always wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap. Shinji is also always wearing a baseball cap. Actually, I think he takes it off once or twice.
Just like you.
Yeah, like me.
Yeah.
Right now, doing this.
With your funny Canadian hat.
With my funny Canada hat. Because... no connection to real... Oh, hold on a minute!
Connor's going on a discovery. Oh, he's equipping a different hat.
This is my New York hat.
But you've never been to New York.
I know.
You're a phony.
I don't know why I have this. This is for the New York Yankees. I don't watch baseball. But Enki Gilbert, when you start off, he's always going, listen, our team has an incredible legacy.
Exactly.
You have to make sure that you are racing to perfection. This is a fine art. And you have to ensure that you will be the next artiste. Otherwise, I'm dropping you out of the team.
Do not tear our reputation by the real Racing Roots.
No. Not in the slightest. Damn, that was a good one.
Yes.
Excellent. You got that one out early.
100%.
As the story progresses, though, it's always more and more of, yes, oh my god, you could really be it. But he's always like, you're not quite at perfection yet. Not
but
quite
close.
But we're going to get you to perfection.
You've got the potential in you.
Yeah. And as you keep going and going, he's always like, wow, you're doing really well. You really could be the next one. And he's always been distant and coy.
Is he Morpheus from the Matrix?
Yeah, he's always been distant and coy about that. Something seems to trouble him. And then he goes, listen, you remind me of my son, Guilano, who died trying to do the perfect race. And I told him, Guilano, don't.
You're not ready.
Don't throw your life away for perfection. And then he was killed by that disgraced Shinji, who is now calling us out in the newspapers.
And every story in this game is told through the lens of 8 very brief visual novel cutscenes.
Yeah.
And this all just kind of happens all at once, and it's just alright, Guillermo, sure.
It's really weird, because there's a cutscene where he's reading a newspaper, and he's like, Sophie Chevalier, the young girl, is going at this racing business again. Shinji Yazaki, the Grim Reaper has returned to the track. And it's like, what? Huh?
He killed my son.
He killed my son.
Or my son killed my son because of the it's very confusing.
Yeah, it's more like, the way he talks about it, it's more that his son got himself killed and it's not actually Shinji's fault. And you get to the second to last track and he's like, please, okay, you don't have to win the perfect race. You don't have to progress in this story for some reason.
Yeah. And then you know what you do? You pull out the perfect race.
You pull out the perfect race and he is in tears. He's like, you did it. You actually did it. You won the perfect race.
You are my son now.
You are like a son to me, Ridge Racer. There's the heartfelt credits and his little monologue that he goes on about it. And
it's fucking fantastic.
It's fantastic. I love that fucking story because it's so over the top.
Yeah, 100%.
In the melodrama.
It's so dramatic for no reason.
And that's why we sometimes just say to each other, the perfect
race, Connor. We'll get there one day.
Actually, I'll make one brief comment about the Italian campaign before we move on to the American one, which is that the campaigns, despite the fact they're meant to be the replayable side of this game, they always have the same kind of structure. It's the same tracks every time, and it can get a bit drab.
Oh, do you mean between campaigns as well? It's always the same order?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although it's a bit unusual to me, because to me, playing as the Italian team always feels the most wrong for one really odd reason.
Yeah.
Because here's the way that the teams are set up. The French team is set up to be the team that's kind of just in it for the business.
Yeah.
They're getting by. They clearly get paid to do what they do. They make some kind of revenue for it. Maybe it advertises other companies and it's just a billboard.
Yeah.
The pack racing team's trying to prove itself, but it's a brand new team. Like, the people on it aren't necessarily experienced. Shinji probably is the most, but the drivers
But he's dead inside.
Yeah, and the drivers are probably all fresh-faced, right? The Dig Racing team are an American team that used to be really good, but are all washed up. They're losing money. They're probably going to drop out of the tournament entirely. And every time you are ever racing them, they are always at the back. They're always in last place. So when you're playing as any other team but the Italian team, the Italians are always at the front because they're like the masterclass perfectionists. They're always the best talent. And when you're playing as them, the order is Dig is at the back, the French team is in the middle, and the Japanese team are in first. And it's like, it just feels really weird for the team that's brand new to be the one that's head running.
Yeah, it's like your guy comes out and he's like, don't you dare besmirch our beautiful reputation. And then you get to the race and you're in 7th and 8th.
Yeah, and it's like, why?
Yeah.
Huh? What's the point of that?
They just didn't put much thought into it, I suppose.
No, and it's the fact that there's always 8 cars on the tracks. There's 2 from each team, which one always gives the mystery of who the fuck is the other guy on your team.
That guy must feel so neglected.
Yeah, he's always in 5th place. What is he doing there? But also the thing of, I really would have liked it if this game had more teams in it.
Yeah.
Other campaigns and maybe more variety.
More campaigns, because the campaigns for me are kind of the lifeblood of this game.
Yeah.
They're not meaningful or anything, but they're really interesting, and I find them fun.
Yeah. Like, this is honestly a world I kind of get a bit engrossed in, and like, I want to know what the other teams are like.
Yeah.
What other parts of the world? Where's the German team? Where's there a British team? Is there a
South Korean team?
A South Korean team? Yeah, why not? I mean, if you look at Formula One, the drivers are from all over the bloody world.
100%,
Finland, Brazil, everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's something that's slightly missed, but it's a lot to ask from, like, a PlayStation 1 era game.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I guess if you look at Gran Turismo and go, yeah, but they have, like, 14 different car brands in their game, and they got the licensing for it, so why the fuck can't this? But...
Well, I wonder if any other Ridge Racer game, like does Ridge Racer 5 have a story mode?
I think it does.
Okay, because maybe that would be a similar vibe.
Yeah. Which, for the record, just as a disclaimer, I'm not familiar with Ridge Racer past this point. I'm very much a retro gamer when it comes to Ridge Racer.
They peaked. They're not going to beat that. And seemingly they didn't. So
yeah, well, I do want to try Ridge Racers 5 through 7, as well as the PSP one. So
maybe I think the 3DS one's meant to be okay.
Okay.
Ridge Racer 3D.
Yeah.
I'm very sleepy.
Well, shall we get on to the expert story, and then we can call this
which I nailed first try. Remember when I came over one day and you were just playing Ridge Racer on expert?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, I just watched you do it and I was like, I'll never be as cool as Connor. I'll never have what it takes.
I mean, this is like my childhood muscle memory, right?
Yeah, 100%,
it's a bit unfair to compare, but like one day you will be able to do the perfect race like me. My daughter, my racing daughter.
Racing days are long behind me.
But the American team, your main character in it is a man called Robert Chrisman. He's your, like, beleaguered, kind of stressed-out manager of the whole place. He looks very dorky. He's got his glasses, his well-kept hair, his little suit and tie and everything.
I just imagine he's sitting there smoking on a cigarette and he's like... No one in America watches this fucking sport.
Yeah, he probably does between things, because he's a guy who's always on like his cell phone talking to his boss. And it's so funny because even when you're winning the game, he's like, amazing, I'm so glad you did first place, I'm really proud of you. But I told my boss about it and he was just like, there was oil all over the logo, what the hell? And he's like, but
I got oil over on the side of the car.
But the thing is I think besides maybe Shinji, he's the guy who probably believes in you the most. I guess Sophie does as well.
Sophie believes in you out of ignorance, though.
Yeah. Like he's the guy who's like, listen, okay, you've done so well for this team that's been failing for the last few years. I'm putting everything on you.
Yeah.
I'm going to push for our budget to get higher. I'm going to go to our boss and try to get us to win this. Because another part of the difficulties isn't just that the AI is better or that it's further ahead in the track.
Yeah.
It's also that the parameters to get better cars is much tighter.
Right.
Like, if you are getting third place every time,
then no way.
There's no way in the slightest. Like, you're never going to unlock anything.
Right.
And it's way harsher for the Dig team than it is for anyone else. So it is very depressing whenever you are playing as the American team, and that guy's like, "I'm going to increase our budget. I'm going to do it." You then cut to the next part of the campaign. He goes, I couldn't get it.
Oh, no.
We tuned up a car as best we could, but we've pushed this to the limits.
Yeah, this is all we could do.
The only thing that we can say to you is the other teams also don't have new cars. Please win this.
I'm sorry, but despite all my best efforts, these real racing routes just won't take shape.
Yeah.
They won't grow.
They won't. They really won't.
Withered in the vine.
You've managed 4 out of 4. Congrats.
I've got that degree for a reason. That was my final exam.
A true wordsmith. Or a word weaver, I suppose, is more of a...
No, I forged them.
Forged them
in my workshop.
In the fires of the Great Oxford Dictionary.
Yeah, it takes forever. I tried to spell there, it takes 20 hours.
Imagining, like, Iron Man.
Yeah.
Like, doing that in a cave. Ash made these puns in a cave! I will be...
You've never even been to a cave.
You've never been to a cave?
No, I'm kind of an urban girl.
Oh.
I don't like the great outdoors.
Oh. When you eventually do win, it's one of the most hard fought victories just because of the difficulty scale of the American team.
And if you want to see that performed to perfection, you can watch Connor's stream on his main channel.
Yeah, I recently streamed Ridge Racer Type 4 on my main channel, and I played as both the Japanese team and the American team at the sort of request of the viewers.
Yeah.
Now, I want to put together a highlights reel for that. I think that'll be a fun one to do.
Yeah.
Because it was very high octane, but when you eventually do it, you do it for your boy Chris. He's so beleaguered, he looks exhausted, and he's like, listen, by doing this, you've kind of given me a clean break to be able to finally quit this damn team because the boss sucks.
Yeah.
And he gets a phone call from the boss being like, what's that? You want to double my salary and keep me on as manager for the next 10 years? Well, I'm going to quit this damn job. You can take your money and shove it wherever you want to put it. And
shove it up the exhaust pipe.
And his final monologue during the credits,
applying for unemployment checks.
Oh my god, that'd be a twist of the night. It's him emailing his family saying, it's him saying, listen, I normally would be with you in the armchair this New Year's watching this with you, but as you know, I'm currently on the tracks, kind of like running things. But I miss you all greatly. I've managed to meet a new friend today, and he taught me a lot of things. And I hope you have a great New Year's, and I'll see you soon. And it's like, it's beautiful. So it's kind of a weird reversal of Sophie, where she's a new fresh face getting a start and getting into it.
I mean, maybe she's the new generation that's coming to replace him on the way out.
Yeah.
While he's got one more burst of glory in him.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas Shinji and Enki, Shinji's obviously like an old, faded...
Yeah, they seem like they're more like you're getting good for past problems, I suppose. Like you're redeeming them in a way.
Yeah. They're very similar in that front.
Yeah.
And I really like that. It's an interesting cycle of stories.
Ties it all together, yeah.
I wonder
how it shows you different areas of that profession as well, which is fun.
Yeah. It's fun flavors of it, and I wonder how much they put the thought into doing these stories, because it feels like a very complete vision of those stories.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a simple
It's
vision.
exactly what it needed to be, though. Like it entirely suits the purpose for which it was made. Which is how I kind of feel about everything in this game. Like, you could criticize it for having not enough content, or for being shallow, but it's like, for what this game is trying to be, I feel like it's perfect.
Yeah. There's a lot more I could ask from it, I'm not going to lie. I've said before that this is one game I would really like to see remastered, and the main reason... Actually, I say remastered, I want it remade. And the reason why I want it remade is I want a version of this game that gives me 4 new mission modes. 4 new stories. It gives me more cars. It gives me more tracks. Because that's what I would want out of this. More songs, yeah. I mean, the Kota Takahashi, who's one of the composers, he does actually do on YouTube new songs that are in the style of his Ridge Racer work.
So he's still got it in him, yeah.
Yeah, he does.
That stuff's out there.
Yeah. So it's very much possible, and I would love to see Namco do this kind of thing.
They don't do fun things anymore, though.
No.
They just make Naruto arena fighters.
Oh, yeah. Didn't they do Jump Force?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we shouldn't let them. Yeah.
Yeah, they wouldn't do... Oh, they did Anyways Combat, and people seem to like that.
Oh, true. Yeah. And they did do Akelin remaster.
That's true.
And they made Smash Brothers one time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Bandai Namco own Dark Souls, don't they?
They publish it in the West.
They publish it, okay.
But From publishes it in Japan and owns the rights to it.
Okay, so they can't even take credit for that. That checks out.
They published The Witcher free in Europe.
Yeah. Okay, odd flex.
Super weird, yeah, super weird.
But that's, for the most part, Ridge Racer. There's a couple other things. There's like a custom decal mode that you can do on your cars, which is fun.
Yeah,
I like that that's on a PlayStation game, and
definitely
time trials and very basic sort of racing modes are quite common as well. But the Grand Prix is really the meat of it for me. It's what I always go back to.
100%, yeah. Because then you get those little story moments that kind of tie everything together and kind of push you through all the races, which kind of gives it that kind of cadence that's really fun.
Yeah. So, Ash, was there anything more you wanted to say on Ridge Racer?
I kind of want to take a brief moment to talk about Ridge Racer beyond Type 4. The kind of the rise and fall of Ridge Racer, I suppose. Just because I find it vaguely interesting to think about this kind of prestige series, which has kind of lost its luster a little bit. Because I admit I have a very limited knowledge of these games. It's not really my genre at all, but to me, it seems like Ridge Racer Type 4 was kind of like the peak of the series.
I think quite a few people would say that.
Yeah, because I'm sure people like Ridge Racer 5, but then after that, I feel like it just starts to go downhill, where you get like a lot of the weird portable spin-offs, which weren't very good, and stuff like that. And there's Ridge Racer 5, 6, 7, PSP, 3DS, Vita, and Ridge Racer Unbounded, which is like a weird like spin-off where it's trying to be more realistic or more like Need for Speed or something like that.
Yeah.
I think the reason why I'm bringing this up is just because I feel like Ridge Racer Type 4 is the perfect encapsulation of a kind of game experience which is very rare these days, which is something that's so pure in its pursuits and its goals that it couldn't survive under the scrutiny of a modern lens, but if you go back to it and you understand that's what you're getting, it's a perfect variant of that. Because this game is limited in content. It doesn't have much going for it. It doesn't really do anything super special or super crazy with the genre that kind of makes it worthy remembering beyond its release period. But to me, it so encapsulates gaming as just a pure, this is a simulation of something in real life, but they've accentuated it to be so much more cool and stylish and more memorable. Like, this is not what racing is like, but I don't care if that's not what racing is like. This is what I want racing to be like. And I don't really need it to be anything more than that.
Yeah, I agree. It's been very difficult for me to get into the modern world of racing just because a lot of it goes for that simulator style. And I'm not really that into it.
Yeah.
I know that if I kind of like kept up with the grind, I'd be able to get better at that kind of thing. Because, you know, I will fully admit that part of it is that I'm not particularly good at them, but I don't get that much out of it.
Yeah. I think for me, I want games to take things that are real and to make them as exciting and as cool and as incredible as they can be, not just to replicate those things, you know?
Yeah.
Like, to me, Ridge Racer Type 4 takes something in life that I'm not all that interested in and makes me interested by pure swagger, basically. And that to me is much more exciting.
I mean, by a similar lens, this is the kind of thing that got you invested in the Total Warhammer and got you paying attention to the Warhammer world.
Exactly, yeah.
Was it presented that world in a really distinct and exciting way.
Yeah, like with the right panache and the right je ne sais quoi, you can really get people into things that they wouldn't think they'd like prior to that. And it kind of distresses me that racing games have moved so far away from that, because I felt playing this game that I was like, could I be into racing games? Could I actually enjoy this genre? And the answer was a resounding no, because no game is really capturing this spirit anymore. No game is carrying this torch into the future.
Yeah.
Really, this is it. This is kind of the game that I will always think of as the racing game that I like, and that's all it will ever be.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point to make. I mean, out of all the competitors and all the other games I've played on the PlayStation 1, this is the one I think the most fondly of. And I would say that it's definitely in my top 20 when it comes to favourite games.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think out of my top 20, there's 13 that are pretty well set in.
Yeah.
And then another sort of 7 that are a bit more nebulous.
No, I think mine's kind of the same, yeah.
Yeah, this is right on the cusp, I think.
Between nebulous and set in?
Yeah, I think this might be 14.
Okay.
Like, maybe that shifts.
Where does it stack up compared to Tomodachi Life?
It's behind. Okay, this is embarrassing for me to say. It's behind Tomodachi Life.
All right.
Tomodachi Life is in the 13.
Hell
yeah. That's in my council of 13.
Yeah. Along with the rats.
Yeah.
We can't really look at that.
No, fucking. I am just thinking about the organization 13. Fucking.
Yeah. It's like Alm is there.
It's got Master Chief, Gabriel Angelos from Dawn of War, and Crash Bandicoot are all in these fucking chairs.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I want to see Crash Bandicoot in a big robe.
Yeah, I would too. He'd look like Mickey Mouse. if you've seen that.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. So anyway, Ridge Racer.
I think we've kind of concluded our thoughts on it for the most part.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if you have any sort of final lasting thoughts, or if there's more you want to say.
So I don't have necessarily anything meaningful to say about Ridge Racer Type 4, other than just to say that it's just a really good version of what it's trying to be.
Mm.
I'll probably never play it by myself. I'll never really seek out a copy of it for my own enjoyment, but I will always remember it fondly, and I think it was a really good time, and I just like it for that.
Yeah.
It's not super special to me, but it was good.
I think that's fair. It is very special to me, and something I really appreciate is how easy it is to get access to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you can buy a retro copy on the PlayStation 1, but you can also get it on the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation 5, it's on virtual, it's like emulated. I mean, it was even one of the games that made it into the PlayStation Classic when that was a thing.
One of the illustrious games that made it onto the PlayStation Classic, like Rayman 1.
Yeah.
And Cool Riders.
Okay, yeah, maybe it's not that venerable in that sense, but
no.
I think
they looked at all the racing games on the PS1 and found something special about Ridge Racer Type 4 to carry it forward, so...
Yeah, and that's fantastic. Actually, before we wrap up, I want to talk about something interesting
Porsche
and
Challenge?
personal. It's about specifically it being on the PlayStation 1, which are the fucking Gimmick Controllers.
Oh, we forgot to talk about the NegCon.
Yes, so this game is compatible with a surprising number of weird Gimmick Controllers on the PlayStation 1.
Well, I think this controller was made exclusively for playing Ridge Racer, right?
It might be, because it's Namco branded. The one I'm holding in my hands right now is called the NegCon. It's weird. I recommend looking up some pictures of it, and I might pop one up on the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. Yeah. But it's a controller that has like a weird circle in the middle, and that's because you can twist it.
Yeah.
And you might look at that, holding it the way you would a normal controller, and be like, ew, what the fuck? Why can you do that? That's the way that you steer. What you're meant to do is you're kind of meant to tilt it left and right like you would a steering wheel while twisting it, to emulate the feeling of turning a steering wheel without it being a full steering wheel.
Yeah. Sadly, you can't bop it. It doesn't have X, triangle, circle, or square like a PlayStation controller. It has A and B and 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And like 1 and 2 are like recessed and are really long buttons. Like they have a really long press to them.
Yeah, I think they're analog buttons.
I would have to presume they're analog. And also L and R are really huge. They're chunky as shit.
Yeah.
I kind of love pressing these.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to hold.
Also, no select.
No select, no, it's just start. It's just
start,
I guess they were like, we don't need a select button in Ridge Racer.
What are you selecting?
I will say though, is that the actual steering part of it, when I've used this before, I've beaten the Italian campaign with this before.
Big man.
Like it actually feels quite good, all things considered.
Excellent.
The main gripe I would have with it is when you're holding down the analog buttons to accelerate. This one's to accelerate, and it really makes your thumb stiff. If you want to brake, you've got to kind of bring your thumb down onto the bottom button, and it's not comfortable. It's the kind of thing where I'm like, ooh, if I did this too long, I'd be getting stiff joints.
It's like trying to play an NES game on the GameCube controller.
Yeah.
Not a good time for anyone.
No.
There's another controller that we saw on the manual, which we haven't got, which is called the JogCon.
Yeah.
Which has a dial in the middle of it.
Yeah, it's got a weird steering dial.
Yeah, and like apparently the operation of this device is so complex as to require a specific guide on operating the dial, where the dial has like a safety mode and like different like it moves by itself to go back to a safe position and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it just seems like very complicated to play Ridge Racer Type 4.
Oh god.
Which is a very simple game.
Yeah, I would be fascinated to give it a go.
Oh, 100% if you can track that down. We're going to play other PS1 games with that.
Yes.
Get Jamalami going with that thing.
Jamalami.
Hell yeah, man.
I guess one detail I sort of missed out on a little bit is how, as part of this era of arcade racing with the PS1 and everything like that, is that this is before racing games standardized using the triggers as its like accelerate and brake and things.
Yeah.
The triggers are there to obviously make it feel more like pedals.
Yeah. And
it's more natural and more clean and comfortable. I'm still used to that press the X button life.
No, I prefer that, yeah.
I'm used to that kart racing life.
I feel like I don't like holding down the triggers on controllers too long. I feel like my hands begin to hurt after a while. Like, I just like holding down a button.
Yeah.
I'm just a simple girl who has simple pleasures.
When it comes to my taste in games and why I'm so attached to Ridge Racer, and while I'm quite disappointed in the current state of gaming, is that right now, those branches of kart racing and realistic simulator are really the main things you can get out of racing.
Yeah.
The sheer amount of times that...
It's like Mario Kart or Gran Turismo, that's kind of pick your poison.
Yeah. If you want to play Formula 1, it's going to be a hyper-realistic, simulator.
To adjust your wheels based on the mud traction and stuff like that.
Yeah. There's a fantastic video by a YouTuber called Racervic who's talking specifically about his disappointment with the Formula 1 games as like simulators and everything.
Yeah.
And the main thing he says about them is, why the hell do racing games always have to be the same fucking thing?
Yeah.
He talks about how like you can make this genre something that's more stylish or fictional or science fiction or anything like that. and I see you holding my copy of Ridge Racer at me while I say this, and I fully agree. Because there's a whole lot more that you can do with a genre than just having these realistic things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing with my gripes about playing Crash Team Racing next to Mario Kart, is both of those games kind of ruin one another for me.
Yeah.
Mario Kart is so refined as a kart racer that I'm like, cool, this is really easy to me now and I want more.
Yeah.
And when I play Crash Team Racing, I'm like, cool, there's a drift mechanic and there's blue fire and there's all these complicated things.
Blue fire, slow down.
Yeah, there's all these complicated techniques you can do that are named like...
As a battle pass?
I wouldn't have been surprised if they did it eventually. But ultimately, it's a game that's still bogged down by being a kart racer with power-ups, where it's like, well, cool, you've taken all these complicated things that could have made it like a mechanically complex, almost competitive game, and you've kept it a kart racer.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Hasn't quite gone all the way.
It's almost like there's a middle ground of racing games that could have... Maybe... I don't know.
Well, it's just the distressing truth that buying a game that's just a really fun version of something isn't enough anymore. Like, it has to have more of a reason to exist, and you can't justify making a game of this type anymore, of this type 4 anymore.
Yeah.
Which is sad. Like, this was just too pure to live on. Like, we had to dilute it with other mechanics and modes and things going on and complications and nuances. You can't just have, guess what, motherfucker, we're racing.
Yeah. And this is where I want to kind of reach out to the audience here and say, hey, listen, friends, countrymen, lend me your ears.
None of them are our countrymen.
No. They're all from all over the place.
Yeah. Australia, apparently.
Yeah. 30%, not 30%, third biggest demographic.
Australians, King Charles, right? Yeah. We're upset too.
If you know of any, say, indie games or anything that's come out over the last sort of 10-ish years that would fill that void, please do say, I'm yearning, I'm looking for these things now. I want them back. I've had my taste of Ridge Racer and I want more.
I'd say you've definitely got to try some of the later Ridge Racer games. I think you've got to get some 5 going.
Definitely.
Some Ridge Racer 3DS.
Definitely. I've got catching up to do and I'm more than happy to do that.
Yeah. It's out there for you.
Yeah, but if there's anything else by other companies...
Shine a spotlight on some things that might have been underappreciated, because we're not exactly the greatest cataloguers of this genre, so...
No.
If there's things we've missed, then let us know.
Yeah, definitely.
Or let Conan know, I don't care.
Yeah. So, I'm wondering if it's worth us getting to rankings and wrapping this one up.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, fantastic. So, in terms of quality, what would you say about Ridge Racer? Would you say it's high, middle, low, bottom, top?
Funny.
That's a Ridge Racer way of ordering things.
I'm going to say, quality-wise, it's going to be Resident Evil 4, Signalis, Warhammer, this.
Okay.
At this stage in the list, it doesn't mean much. It's in the good category.
Yeah.
With those 3 other games. It's better than Geist.
It's better than Geist.
I can tell you that for free.
It's definitely better than Geist.
Listen, when we get to the full 50 games, this makes more sense. But right now, it's just, it meets that bar.
Yeah.
It's not boring. So.
Yeah. And I think in a similar way, it might not mean that much, but I would say this is very much near the top of my list for quality. I think for what it's setting out to do and what it manages to accomplish as a full Raptor package, it's very, very good.
So like Disaster, a bit higher than that?
Yeah.
Just a touch.
A little bit higher than Disaster, yeah. I think I'd put this in like my top 3 or 4, even considering those 57 games we have entirely.
See, Rise of Nightmares is in that list, so I have to kind of knock it down a little bit.
It's behind Rise of Nightmares.
That kind of reframes the whole thing. Yeah.
And in terms of interesting,
I'm going to say low.
Low and interesting?
I don't think this game interests me in any way. I just think it's a really good version of what it is. I don't think it has anything about it that intrigues me.
I feel like I'm the person that always has an answer to say that anything on our list is interesting.
Yeah.
And I especially would think so when I consider the previous Ridge Racer games, as well as how this kind of like stands out and manages to kind of like compare to Gran Turismo.
I mean, it's a really good point because every game on the list is interesting. Yeah. That's why they're on the list.
Yeah.
So it's in comparison to the other list games, it's not that interesting, but it's still an interesting game inherently, but it's not beating out all the rest.
Yeah. And I think as a result of that, it is still a game where you drive cars and you drift a bit, and it's like an hour and a half long if you do one campaign.
Yeah, exactly.
So in terms of fun,
oh, it was really fun. Yeah. It was just good video game fun where we were just sitting there just replaying races trying to get the best score, and you were trying to give me all the tips so I could win the easy mode, and it was really just pure, uncomplicated, unqualified fun. So I'm going to go, I might put it at 1 for the current list.
Really?
Yeah.
Hot diggity.
It's either that or Warhammer.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I think it's especially just the very nature of a race. You're getting involved. Like the tensions are high, the stakes are high, and every second counts. And you're really getting involved. And when you finally cross over and get number one, it's such a rush.
I think I can paint a picture of it in my mind because it was 2020. We had just been freed from our COVID restrictions, as we always say. And I just remember being in your spare room in your old house, and we were in those old rickety wicker chairs, and I had like a blanket wrapped over me, and I was leaning forward with the PlayStation controller, just trying to do better.
Yeah.
Or like yelling at you to be like, yeah, go on, gonna go. And I just remember it really distinctly, and it was a really good time.
Yeah. I think as a result of that, I'd also say this is near the top.
Yeah.
Which is a high accolade.
Yeah.
Like, part of me is almost like, maybe I should take quality and top and maybe, like, lower them down a bit. But it's like, okay, no. I won't betray my feelings on that. I really like Ridge Racer Type 4.
It was a really, really good time.
Yeah.
It definitely, it proved to us that playing good games was viable as well. Because we were like, oh, this is actually great.
Yeah. And it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to say that things kept going on the up. And they did. But we can't look forward at this point in time. We have to go a little bit back because there's a couple gaps in the list right now.
Yeah. We have to give someone his due.
Oh, yeah.
We've been denying him his coverage for the last year or so, I feel, at this stage.
Definitely. And it's one of my first picks, one of my first breakout attempts to expand the list from the 3 games we'd previously played on it.
And I think it would be not disingenuous to say that this game is kind of the keystone of Connor's entire life. I think the man that he has become today is entirely determined by this game and its effect on him.
Bold words
for The Legend of K.
The Legend... Oh, The Legend of Cage?
No. Legend of K.
Legacy of Kane? I'm covering that soon.
I can't do this bit. We're talking about The Legend of K.
The Legend of K.
It's got a little cat boy in it.
That's how you know.
I hope you've all seen the movie Robots. It's critical to understanding The Legend of K.
Jesus Christ. Okay. But yeah, join us next time for a game about a cat. So, of course, I'm going to love it.
100%. This is such Connor Bay game. It's amusing. There's even a funny monkey in it.
There's a funny monkey in it. It's very good.
Well...
All right.
But at the end of this one, let me just offer our appreciation again to our very loyal fan base for watching us piddle our way through talking about cars.
Oh my god, yeah.
This was a bit of a perilous one for us to do. It wasn't really something we've done before, so we hope it turned out all right.
Yeah, me too. But I hope you all enjoy. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah.
If you're interested in listening more from us, there will be the playlist that will be at the end of this video.
100%.
I'll be popping it on there.
We've got like a proper collection now. This is what, episode 11?
Yep, episode 11.
That's 22 hours of us out there for you to enjoy, so...
If you're interested in seeing more of what I do, the link to my main channel, ThunderPsyker, is on the air, and
and we can do a great link to it now, because there's actually a Ridge Racer Type 4 video on your channel.
There is, yeah. There's the stream of it that I played just before we did the recording. It is very good fun.
Yeah, if you want to see the most stylish racing game out there being played by the most stylish racer, then that's the channel for you.
Thank you. And anything else you'd like to promote as well, Ash, or are you right?
I think right now I'm good. Please go watch Return to Sender. I'm going to support I'm going to be magnanimous and support the other show on the channel.
Sport Return to Sender will be 6 episodes in, but in the meantime, thank you very much for watching / listening. I hope you all have a fantastic time and look out for yourselves out there.
Yeah, make good choices. Ciao.
Bye. All right, we're good.
Ridge Racer!